Instruction, golf news, equipment, travel, interviews, course profiles, and more. Your weekly fix of all things golf is about to begin. It's the Flagstick Podcast with your hosts, Jeff Potter and Scott McLeod. All right, well, welcome in everybody to another great episode of the Flagstick Podcast with myself, Jeff Potter, and this guy to my right or to my left, depending on the video you're looking at, Scott McLeod. And of course, the Flagstick Podcast is presented once again by our good friends, the Canadian Pro Shop Online, with amazing prices on all the latest brand name golf equipment at one convenient location online. It's never been easier to upgrade your game, whether it's drivers, irons, putters, or whatever your golf game needs. The Canadian Pro Shop Online has the best gear to help you play your best golf. Shop online today at CanadianProShopOnline.com. As we always try to make sure that you are following us across all our social media networks because it's very important. Instagram, X, Facebook, TikTok. My God, there's so many of them. And they keep growing. Subscribe on Spotify, Audible, Google Podcasts, and Apple Podcasts. And as always, we do encourage you to hit the YouTube channel. Subscribe there. Like us and click the notification bell to make sure you never miss a single episode.
We're actually on Threads too, but I have not posted much on there, so
don't pull at that thread.
How are you today, sir?
I'm telling you, I'm going to be. I apologize in advance. This is going to happen throughout the show. I've got this whatever little nagging cough going on, and I've had it for about a month. So I'm not sure what's going on. I'll figure it out at some time when I have time to maybe go see the doctor and see why I'm coughing so much. But
you're apologizing in advance. That's what
I'm just apologizing in advance because I could break into an absolute hacking fit there at some point or another. So
awesome. That'll be fun.
You might have to carry the show for a while.
That will be fun too.
So this is a crazy day.
Yes,
I have two kids now with their G2.
Oh boy.
Because Brandon just got his yesterday.
Oh boy.
And Brandon took the car to school today.
Oh boy.
So I'm home all day anyway. So he's like, can I take the car? I'm like, I suppose so.
I get it. We have two cars. I have 0 cars right now. they're one's at school.
But you have a simulator.
Yeah, I know, but
that makes up for everything.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. I'm not in there all the time. Just, to put that out there. Okay. I was in there last night.
All the time means in a 24-hour day. He's not in there 24 hours a day.
Well,
that doesn't mean that he isn't in there 5 or 6 hours a day or 3 or 4 hours a day. Or,
I mean,
he doesn't sleep. So, I mean,
yeah.
when you kind of factor in that side of things too, right?
Well, I go in there to play around with stuff because I get thinking about certain things with students or golf stuff or whatever. And it's easy just to pop in there and, make a couple of swings and think about it or, make use of the toys that are in there. It's definitely fun to have, and it's sort of a dream scenario or whatever. But I thought about it the other day. It's, if I thought about it when I was a kid and having a simulator, man, I would sleep in there. I'd be there 12 hours, but that's just like going to the golf course. We always said, oh yeah, man, I'd never leave the golf course, but you know what? It serves its purpose. I'm not saying I'm not, obviously lucky to have it or so forth, but yeah, I'm not in there maybe as much as people would think. And a lot of times it's just to hit balls. I'm not always playing a course or whatever the case may be, but that is an option, and especially an option in the wintertime. But and I know lots of other people are playing simulator golf already because man, I am hearing about it all over the place. Obviously.
It's the rage, I tell you. It's I was just out at Celtic Golf Center
down at Kempville
a couple days ago with Andy McWilliams, just checking it because he did an expansion out there, put in two Unicore simulators in the back of the building there, and they the Unicore simulator is actually pretty cool. I mean, TrackMan awesome. Yeah, TrackMan awesome. But the Unicore ones you would show me,
awesome. I need a T-shirt that says TrackMan awesome.
The Unicore ones have an interesting practice setup to them where I don't know if people remember the old school simulators they used to have at some of the retail stores where they had the face track.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Well, Unicore has, because of the tracking cameras and stuff above, that actually tracks the face angles and all, like and records it so that you can go back to it later. It's really kind of cool.
Yeah, you can see the collision of the golf ball there, and
Yeah.
you can see obviously the club face twist, which a lot of people don't realize and understand happens in that impact interval. So yeah, that is one
I
of
thought
the
it was kind of cool.
overhead cameras.
That was kind of cool. And he uses, I think, the GS Pro with those ones,
software,
which gives them Georgia National and DPC Sodgrass.
Wonder what those are. Shocking.
I get what you're protecting there, but Mike, really,
yeah,
I really you're not going to be able to figure that one out.
Well, that's the thing with that software. People can actually design their own golf courses.
Yes, because that's on the
Right. So it's open source, and people obviously are able to go and design. And there's people that just do it full time, and they design golf courses to upload into that type of software. And obviously people have access to around the world. And the cool part is golf courses will, do their own designs. I mean, TrackMan, obviously, people can have that done if they have a TrackMan facility or so forth. But we'll see some other golf courses that will basically just, endeavor to design their own so that they can play their own golf course all the time.
Yeah, no, it's a cool way to do it.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's get to it. We got a lot to pack in here today.
Yeah, we do. On the front end, we're going to obviously as always we're going to catch up on some of the latest news and topics, including some more drivers that are popping up on the USGA conforming list. Last episode we talked about the Kirkland driver, which I suggested they should think about renaming. Funny that I haven't gotten a phone call from Costco or Kirkland as to hiring my services to help them out with that little problem that they're having. But anybody that is a part of Costco or whatever, and you want to fix the issue, you feel free to give me a shout. Anyway, we're also going to talk of the best of golf hole selections. I'm not going to get into detail on that. We're going to leave that wide open for your interpretation until we get to it. Yeah. And we're going to talk about some of the happenings within the pro and amateur game. On the back nine, we're going to catch up with a gentleman by the name of Blair Harris, who is with the Quinte Kingston intersectional matches. So similar to what we have here in the Ottawa with the OVGA intersectional matches, they have started that down in Kingston, and it's been growing quite a bit over the years, and we thought it'd be time to catch up with him on their year and just how much it's grown and what's happening there. And that's in the front nine as well. So that's on the back nine. It's a little interview that you did with Blair. So we're going to play that in the back nine. But let's get to the front nine, presented by Metcalfe Golf Club. A natural setting, a pleasant challenge. Golf season may be over. In fact, it is over at Metcalfe. But you have to start planning for next season now. Buy a membership, get your name on a league list, purchase some of the game packs online, and be ready to hit the first tee in the spring with big savings in your pocket. Visit metcalfegolf.com to shop now. All right.
A couple golf courses actually opened.
I know. I saw at Pakenham. Pakenham had the big social media campaign. Yeah. We're reopening for 3 days.
Yeah, Mapleview did as well, and obviously, as we said, Crooked Creek. I'm not sure who else is there, but I mean, I had people messaging me at 7 this morning going, do you have a list of the courses that are open? And I'm like, it varies from day to day. So
that is not
really.
That is not a list that I think that we would work on compiling. I think that's a case of let us know, and we'll whether you do it on your own social, we'll repost it, we'll share it however or let us know, and we'll tack it out there somehow. But
it's tough.
I guess if I'm not a golf course owner, so I mean, I'm not going to look at it and say, okay, I don't understand why you're closing for a week and then opening for 3 days. If the need for the dollars are there, I can't see that many dollars coming in, so I'm not really understanding why. But maybe there's a golf course owner out there that is listening or watching and is in that situation where you closed and then reopened, and you can explain to me the logic behind reopening, and then I'll understand. And then I will explain it on this podcast to everybody that listens, the ones of people, and then we'll have it out there forever and recorded.
I'm sure it varies. I'm sure it varies from.
I'm sure it does. I'd like to know, though. I mean, I really would. Anyway, back to the front nine.
There you go.
We got a little sidetracked there. I hit a tree. New drivers appearing this week on the USGA conforming list from TaylorMade, Cobra, PXG, and Ping. What'd you see?
So obviously,
Rory had one of them in his bag, I thought.
Yeah, so people have to realize a lot of the reasons why they end up appearing on the conforming list, even though they're not going to be, available to the public into the early part of the year, is that they have to be approved for use for players. So, for an example, as you said, Rory was going to put it into play this week at the DP World Tour. Shot 1 under in the first round, by the way. So as a result of it, it has to be on the conforming list. So on Monday morning, when they update the conforming list, this is when gearheads and geeks like me are patrolling this list and looking to see what's new on the list. And, we have some indications. I kind of know from, kind of insider stuff, who's might be, squeaky a driver or so out there. So obviously TaylorMade has the next version of their carbon wood club. There's not much to see because again, it's a black and white photo. They have very few details, and we shared it on our social media. Very few details of what's there from a marking wise from the USGA. So we don't really know a lot, and even if we did, chances are we might be under embargo and not be able to share those details.
Exactly.
Anyways. Cobra had the dark speed, so they had three versions. Dark speed, so they had 3 versions of their driver out there. PXG had a Black Ops, which is their 0311, their driver out there. Black Ops, nice name. And then Ping has a new version of the G430. It's their 10K. Indications from that is that it's a much higher MOI version. Cameron Champ's expected to put that in the bag or have that in the bag today at the RSM Classic. Here's the thing, though, about this. And there's a couple different angles here. I had one guy online. He was complaining about leaked photos. So first of all, these are not leaked photos for the USGA. These are published by the USGA on their list. So I know it may take away the surprise for some people, but there's not really many surprises out there right now. But my question to you is, do you get excited about new gear? Now, I know back when we were in our retail days, obviously it was important from a sales cycle, so forth, interest from customers and things like that. But what's your thought these days? Does it really pique your interest? Do you really, I won't say do you care, but does it gather your attention, or is it just something that's sort of in the background?
For me, I mean, I care. It does. I do care. I don't know if it's as a golfer I care, or as a person that's in the business of golf that I care. So I think as a golfer I don't care as much about knowing so far in advance. Like, I mean, I don't think that really, I think when it comes out and they announce it, and if I'm intrigued by what they're showing, then it might pique my interest.
You're not like sweating to get it into your bag as quickly as possible.
No. I mean, there's nothing, and frankly, there's for me, how do I say that? It's like you want to say I don't want to upset the
No, but you're not seeing an advantage for as a golfer.
I don't.
You just play what you play, right?
Every once in a while, I see something come out that to me really does revolutionize the game, and I see something come out that changes how far someone can hit it, changes how straight they can hit it, how it helps the average golfer or the less than average golfer with their game. So I see stuff like that come out, and that excites me. New gear for a player like myself that maybe, I'm not saying I'm like more for yourself, but I'm a better player.
For sure.
I can still go out nowadays with equipment that I used 10 years ago and shoot the same scores. Like, it doesn't change,
as can most.
It doesn't change anything, but I will say that, the equipment that I'm using now is far more forgiving. And even though the clubs may be a forged club, as opposed to cast. Because back in the day, it was like, well, if you had a forged club, if you didn't hit
Yeah.
it right, it was
That's just
sending
a
vibrations down your spine. So you had to use cast clubs because
yeah.
those were more forgiving. Well, that's
That's not really
completely
the case.
changed and
It's
kind of
yeah.
fable-ish to begin with. But
Yeah.
so I don't know. I don't know if I get wound up and excited over it. It piques my interest because anything new
Right.
is exciting. So then I
Yeah.
want to know, okay, well, what is this? What is this? I want to know about this. So right now we're seeing these things, seeing these pictures from TaylorMade and and the stuff from Kirkland and whatever comes out from Cobra. And I see this stuff and I'm intrigued because I
Right.
haven't hit it yet. I
Right.
haven't seen it up close and set it down on the ground and say, yeah, hey, I love how this looks. I want to try this.
Yeah.
And I guess that was always when I went to the PGA show and did the demo day down there. That was kind of the way that I could quantify this new stuff that was coming up because I'd seen lots of pictures of it, but I hadn't really felt it in my hand or felt how it performed. So yeah, I guess it's kind of a double-edged sword there. It's like, yes, I'm intrigued by it, but it doesn't excite me as much. It's just intrigue, I guess. Does that make sense?
Intrigue's definitely a way to put it here. I mean, it's not going to revolutionize in your game probably, but certainly, again, you're right. It's seeing the progress within the companies and what they're working on, and talking to the engineers and different people. It's always neat to see where they're going with things, and sometimes these are evolutions of stuff that we've talked about years ago that they were hoping to make at some point once materials and things were available and so forth. What I'm always interested about is how people react to these are black and white photos of the bottom of a golf club, and how people react is unbelievable. I mean, either they're like, this is the best thing ever, or in other cases, and more often than not, they haven't hit the club yet. They haven't even got it in their hands yet. They haven't seen it from a top side yet or whatever. And they're like, oh, that's terrible. Or that looks like so-and-so. That looks like a copy of this or a copy of that. Like, whoa, 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 whoa. Just settle down, be patient, wait for it to come out.
But isn't that the nature of the nature of the golfer?
I guess
is to be
overly
opinionative. No, it shouldn't. But that's the modern era of social media and stuff too, where everybody's protected by the keyboard and the screen and everything, and they're not. If someone had to say that face to face to the guy that's the R&D guy from TaylorMade, would he say it?
No,
probably not.
No,
and because he'd be embarrassed to not be able to back it up. You can hide behind a at whatever or whatever your screen your handle is, and nobody knows who you are. Then it's easy to have these opinions, and you see that all the time. There's some
and your
opinions about stuff.
And you're fine to have an opinion or whatever, but I mean, obviously, digging it from a facts. I had a guy yesterday, basically, talking about the driving performance of a particular player and saying how with this brand now they're way off or whatever the case may be. I basically presented him with the strokes gained, the fact that the player was down to half a stroke per tournament, based on it, and their assertion that they were missing way more fairways. Well, they were missing one less fairway per, and that may make a difference. But again, their anecdotal information. Their driving average was down 2 yards. Well, 2 yards up or down over 74 rounds ago. Yeah, it's really amounts to nothing. So, anyways, I think it's always interesting that they appear. Obviously, we'll wait. We'll have more information when it's available. But yeah, I mean, if people want to weigh in and tell us how excited or not excited they get about new equipment, I think price comes into a factor too. Now, I mean, it's not easy for people to all of a sudden just switch over to another driver if it costs $600 to $800. So maybe they're a little bit tempered by that, as opposed to back in the day, if maybe they were a little bit cheaper and they could switch more easily. And as I say, always with the golf equipment, you don't buy a golf equipment, you buy hope, right? So
well, and the trade value of a lot of equipment too. So like when you want a new driver and you want to go someplace where you can do a trade or a swap and buy or whatever, and you're getting no value for what you bought a year ago. Like if you paid $600 for a driver last year and you want to trade it in to buy another $600 driver this year, and you think you're going to trade it in after a year, it's in mint condition, they're going to give me $400 for it.
Oh, that's not
Forget
happening.
it. Be lucky if you get 150. So, I mean,
yeah,
and that's the reality of it. Is it's, you know, unlike much like a car, it loses a high percentage of its value the moment the first ball is struck off it, regardless of how good a condition it's in.
And people have to realize and understand, you know, the performance of the product, especially in this case, is highly dependent on the golfer. You know, so it's not exactly, it's not, you know, it's not the club to blame. And then on top of that, was it fitted properly? There's a lot of different factors.
Well, that's the factor that, you know, I think that's the factor that most people don't take into account, is that you go into a retailer and you buy a driver, or any club, but a driver in particular, because that's the one everybody wants to hit straight.
Sure, it's also the one that's under the most stress.
You hit a few shots into a simulator or into a net or whatever, and off a launch monitor, and you get some numbers and you see some screen and you think that that's good, and but you don't truly have the piece of equipment fit for you. And I think that more than any other club in your bag, your driver has got to be fit for you. I mean, the length of the shaft, the flex of the shaft, the weight of the shaft, how the shaft reacts with the head that you have on it is important too, because you know, I can take the shaft out of the driver I'm hitting now and say, okay, well, I really like this shaft and I hit this driver really well, but I'm going to switch to another brand because someone gave me this, or I decided I wanted to go to this one because it looks cool.
It's a different
now you
animal.
go and take the same shaft that's in the driver you're hitting now because you hit it so well, and you put it in the new head, and you think you're going to go out and hit it just as well, and you're not, because the head is completely different. It's a different overall weight. It's a different setup. It has
center of gravity. There's
everything changes. Now you got to go and get refit, because you might need a completely different shaft for that situation. So understand that if you're going to spend $600 on a driver
or more,
you know, I would strongly suggest that you don't just walk in someplace and buy the one off the shelf and walk out. That you go and you have it properly fit, even if it's fit at the place that you're at. I don't care. Go through the motions, have it fit properly, so that you know that this is good before you leave the store and commit to spending $600. Like it's beyond me. Would you go and buy a car, a used or a brand new car? Would you go and just walk into the lot? And I mean, people have. I know I have. But
the thing is that even a driver is even more particular than a car, because the fact is it's more precise as far as what's going to happen at the impact, at the collision standpoint, as far as the club head and the golf ball. And that's a dynamic situation between the golfer and the golf club and the golf ball. So, you know, because of that, there are a lot of elements that have to be worked into that, way more than most people think. And, you know, as much as everybody would like to think this is a really simple situation from a fit, it's not. It's a complex issue. It's a complex item. And, you know, again, we all like to make things simple. It's no different than, you know, our golf swings or whatever the case may be. But I'm sorry, you just have to admit that it is a complex situation, which requires some extra work to do. And the thing is that, you know, why be disappointed in the end? So you may as well get it done properly. And chances are, you know what, you're going to be able to hang on to that driver for a little bit longer. So
there you go.
All right.
Great advice from us. We have a bunch of Canadians that playing second stage Q school, which is very exciting. You said four are currently in action, and 8 more are to get going in a couple of weeks. But the 4 that are currently in action, we've got at least one that's inside the number, eh? And who is it?
So the 4 are in action this week. They're obviously through 36 holes so far. Dealing with some tough scoring conditions. Noah Steele, who we've mentioned from Kingston, Ontario, he's in the site in Savannah. He went 68-73. He's T12 in Savannah. You got to be T15 in ties to advance. So it's a tight cut. They're about 78 player fields to be able to make your way to finals, because finals guarantees you at least conditional status on the Corn Ferry Tour. gives you an option for full status on the Corn Ferry Tour. And this year, they are returning 5 cards for the PGA Tour has returned for those Q School finals. So there's a lot on the line for these players. The other 3 Canadians that are in action are down in Florida at the Tesoro Club in Port St. Lucie. Brendan McDougall from Calgary is the top one out of that group right now. He's T21 through 36 holes. Peyton Callens and Matt Hill are there as well. Peyton's just behind Brendan, and Matt's a little further down the field. So they'll all need good play no matter what. Even if they are in good position right now, they'll still need good play over the next 36 holes if they're going to advance.
And I mean, your livelihood on the line, eh? Like, this is, it's not the end
it's
of the world. It's
for
not the end of the world if you don't go through, but I mean, this is you're this close, and getting through to that next stage, how much of a difference that makes, and then getting through, man, like,
well, it's another year for some of these,
right?
Yeah, for some of these players, it's it's a once a year chance to graduate up. For some players, say Peyton Callens, for an example, he doesn't have status on any tour. It's a little bit different than for, say, Noah, for an example, who has status on PGA Tour Americas for next year. So he can play Latin America, Canada, US. So, he can play that tour. So he has a job. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of other players. Matt Hill, here's a veteran player, for an example. He's playing minor league golf tour events, while doing his other career while he's in Florida. So he doesn't have status on a tour. So, I mean, for those players, it's super, super critical. If you don't have any type of fallback, it's back to the mini tours. And, for some of these guys, and I've talked to a few of them this winter, they're hanging it up. They get to the point where, they've gone to the Q School a bunch of years. Maybe they don't get through first stage. They're done with the mini tours. They haven't made any money. Time to go home and find another job. So.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that it comes to that, but at some point or another,
it's a reality of it.
You have to stop. I mean, chasing the dream, I get it. I mean, it happens in all sports, guys, hockey players, baseball players, football players, just where does it stop? And when you realize that it has to stop, that's a tough decision to have to make, but
yeah, and golf's a tough one because you're paying your own expenses. That's a little bit different than maybe some other sports where you get minor league contracts enough to like cover your expenses and so forth. Golf, you're trying to find the money all the time to keep out there, so it tends to weed out people. And we always say that the money runs out usually before the talent does. That's just the way it is, unfortunately. So, but good luck to those guys, and we'll give you some follow up on that as it plays out.
Now, just want to quickly mention too that we have 2 players that are kind of in action this week.
Yeah, I mean, there's more than that on the PGA Tour. There's 5 Canadians playing the PGA Tour, but particularly Adam Svensson is obviously defending his title at the RSM Classic, and then Brooke, as we mentioned, she's at the season-ending CME Group Tour Championship. And if people want to check out her media conference that she had prior to the tournament, we've got that posted up on flagstick.com, and you'll see her comments based on the year and kind of where she feels she's at heading into this tournament, which she tees off a little bit later today.
Okay, now we've got also Curtis Barkley. We haven't talked about in a bit, but we've talked about a lot. Is in Dubai for the G4D Tour Series finale, part of the DP World Tour Championship, where he tied for second last year, and he is currently the number 5 ranked player in the world.
Yes,
on the G4D Tour. Interestingly enough, his mom, Kathy, is there, and she finally realized a dream of hers and got to meet Rory McIlroy, who's in the field, obviously, this week for the DP World Tour Championship being held at the same time. So exciting for Curtis's mom. I'm sure equally exciting for Curtis to be over there playing and maybe taking a shot at a
big title,
slightly higher finish than last year. He doesn't have to go far to finish better, but the only thing he can do is win. So
Yeah, he hasn't won one of those G4D titles yet. He's been really, really close. Obviously Dubai, Australia, a few different ones. So he's trying to get that number one spot. And if people didn't check it out, the DP World Tour actually shared on social media yesterday. They did this little ball bouncing video that they did with a whole bunch of their players, and they actually included some of the G4D players in it. So Curtis is in that video as well. It's a chain of players bouncing a golf ball off the face, and they're going down the line. So good to see Curtis as part of that. And we've been staying in touch with him via social media while he's over there. So good luck, Curtis, and looking forward to seeing you play well over those 36 holes.
Okay. Lastly, before we take a break, and we're going to have to shove part of this information, part of what we want to talk about, we're going to have to shove it into the back nine because we like to talk and we've overspoke. Last thing before we do take the break is some of our regional pros playing in the PGA Head Professional Championship in Mexico. Cameron Gall, Derek McDonald from Whitetail, Sarah Landry, Gord Percy, Lee Curry, and Roger Beal are all participating, representing the PGA Ottawa at the PGA Head Professionals Championships in Mexico. So it will be interesting to see how they finish up. And we will have information on that both on flagstick.com and on the Flagstick podcast as soon as we have that results for you. We're going to take a break. We're going to slide this a little bit into the back nine. We're going to talk about the Eastern Ontario best of 18 holes. We're going to get to the details on that, but we're going to shove that in the back nine, as well as Scott's interview with Blair Harris from Quinte Kingston Intersectional. But we'll do that right after the break. Stay with us. You'll be back. We'll be right back. You're listening to the Flagstick podcast with Jeff Botter and Scott McLeod. The Canadian Pro Shop Online has all the best gear for Canadian golfers. Amazing prices on all the top brands in one place. The latest drivers, irons, putters, and more. The Canadian Pro Shop Online is the best gear to help you play your best golf. Shop online today at CanadianProShopOnline.com. Well, welcome back to the Flagstick podcast with myself, Jeff Botter, and Scott McLeod. We're going to pull some stuff that we didn't get through in the front nine into the back nine. So let's get into the back nine right away. Presented this week by Falcon Ridge Golf Course. Another outdoor golf season has ended, but that does not mean golf is over. The indoor golf season has begun at Falcon Ridge, featuring 4 state-of-the-art TrackMan sims. They are open and ready for business and ready to help you extend your golf season well into the spring. Visit falconridgegolf.ca for more information or to book a tee time.
You got it.
4.
Get on over there.
Yes. Well, it's close for me, so I probably will try to, because some of us don't have one in our garage.
I would recommend, they just added the new 2 courses at the PGA of America headquarters. They're pretty nice and fun to play. Lofoten Links in Norway. Try that one out.
Okay. All right. Lofoten Links.
And that's perfect for you to have a match against someone because you got to hit it straight. So that's your forte. And they can play around in the volcanic rocks, whoever you're playing against.
Good plan. So there you go. So if not me, if anybody listening or watching the podcast is going to a facility like Falcon Ridge that has TrackMan, Lofoten Links.
There you go.
Do it.
Try it out.
Okay. Before we get to the interview with Blair Harris, we want to just suck a little bit of the front nine into the back nine that we didn't get done. And we want to talk about Eastern Ontario best of 18 holes. So, Scott, let's explain. Explain yourself, please.
Obviously, Joe McLean, who longtime friend of ours and worked with us for many, many years, still active on his Twitter handle. And he likes to dig into the archives and stuff all the time. In fact, he sent me a great 300 page story this week that I'll share details of at one point of. But one thing that he digs through is some of the newspapers and so forth. And he found this article in the Ottawa Citizen from 1985 that Martin Cleary did. And basically, Martin got together a panel of 5 people from the golf community. At that time, it was Vera Charlebois, who recently passed away, John Holtzman, Barry Laffin, Greg Olson, and Floyd Cooper, who was the OVGA chair for ratings for golf courses and so forth for a while. So they got together and they put together a compilation golf course of the best 18 holes at that time in Eastern Ontario. Now, we have to premise, or we have to let you know that since that time, the golf courses and the number of holes in the region has basically doubled. So there's a much more choices now. So I'm sure it's going to lead to some lively debate at some point if we, maybe open this back up again and maybe try to do something. But for the sake of time, do you think you could actually pick a favorite 18? Would it be hard? Could you come up with all of a sudden 40 and then you're trying to pare it down to 18? And maybe today, maybe we want to just pick out one hole that maybe would jump out right away and that would definitely be part of that. Now, I will say when they did this setup, they did a par 72 and the holes could fit anywhere. So as we talked about before we got on air, it could be the second hole at a place, but you can make it the first hole of your favorite one. I like the premise of going and maybe being more narrow and saying, what's your top first hole, second hole, third hole, or whatever, and being the actual number. We won't put it that way, or we won't put a restriction on that. We'll do some stuff on social if people want to put some things out there, but why don't you just pick one? And here's the cool part. It's totally subjective. It's up to you to say, you know what, this is my favorite hole. It could be a hole that another person thinks is dumb. It doesn't really matter. But is there one hole that would jump out right away that if you were to choose and had to, pick 18, that right away you'd be like, oh yeah, for me, that has to be on my list. Cornered.
Wow. Yeah, big time. One hole from Eastern Ontario.
Yeah, and it could be, like I said, it could. And when I see Eastern Ontario, their compilation course, for an example, had the 18th hole at Cataraqui, so they went far-reaching with it. They did include courses from over on the Quebec side in the Outaouais region as well.
Yeah, okay. I
throw it at me.
So the one that stands out in my mind right off the bat, because we've been there so often, is number 4 at Smugglers.
Okay. Yeah. Par five, elevated
off the big elevation, very narrow. Environmental area down the right hand side that you cross
couple times.
The green, you cross it a couple. Hopefully you don't cross it a couple times.
Yeah, sorry. You should only cross it once. You should only cross it once. Yeah.
If you're crossing it a couple of times, you're in that deep of trouble. I think that one's the first one that stands out into my mind. I mean, there's so many. I mean,
that's the thing.
I've played every golf course with the exception of 1 or 2 in Eastern Ontario.
Yeah,
in this region.
So it's a big task. Yeah, it really is.
You know what? I kind of like the idea of the task. I like the premise of the task, and I think that aside from myself, I think I want to do this. But I'd like to see. I like the premise of getting our audience involved, like our Flagstick community involved in this. I'd like to.
Yeah, I agree.
I'd love to see, and then we can even publish some of the results of these on flagstick.com, what people think, and then maybe we can get a real good conversation going.
Yeah.
What about you? What about, I mean, I'm sure that one kicks into your head.
Yeah, I think when I looked at this, this was probably easy for me because I've had a little bit more time to look at it and think of it. And then, I obviously looked at their list that they had as well. And, we can share that at some point if people like as well. And we have to remember, because they had fewer courses to choose from, they picked multiple for some golf courses where that might not be the case these days. 18th at Royal Ottawa stands out for me. Dramatic par 5 finishing hole, not so testing off the tee, but really forces you to make a decision for that second shot, because if you've got the length to get there, there is high levels of risk and reward. I mean, even if you hit the ball on the surface, it might not stay there. And if it gets over the back of it, as players saw at the 2016 Canadian Men's Amateur Championship, you can be in a world of trouble depending on where the hole locations are. Got some good slope to the green, so it makes it a challenge that way.
Well, if you don't get to the green too, if you just get across the creek at the bottom of the hill, and you're on that bank in any fashion, that's really, really tough. As Brandon found out when we played Royal Ottawa with
Oh, he
Garrick
got over there. Yeah,
and Jenny.
yeah,
Yeah, he was on the side of the bank, had to get up and down from there.
yeah. And
So
it's no it's no gimme too. Even if you lay up, your wedge shot has to definitely be precise to put you in a position that you're going to have a decent putt. So I like it in the fact that it's a par five. That's not a it's not a there's so many par fives that you play that are just like the scoring average is going to be just over 4.
yeah.
So people will take advantage of it all the time, whereas this one is not always the case. And
No.
blend in the fact that the patio is right there and that people are always watching you. It adds to it, and on top of the historic element as well. So there's a lot of elements there that go into that, but I think that one is one that would jump out for me. But I agree.
17 at Renfrew is always one that I like.
Yes.
17 and 18, the finish
18.
there.
Yeah,
17
yeah.
across the gorge there, difficult little par 3, and then 18
Yeah.
down the hill towards that clubhouse. Has
Yeah.
that sort of same Royal Ottawa sort of style. You still got that Tudor style clubhouse too, and Royal Ottawa obviously is Royal Ottawa, but that style. You're coming down the hill, and then
I think
there's a bunch. I mean, it could be a difficult list to pare
Well,
down.
here's the thing. There's so many different ways you could go about it. I mean, you could pick 18 of the best par fives. You could pick the 18 of the best par fours. I mean, it would be really hard to be definitive and say, here is the best par five, because again, there's so many, it would be a difficult contest that way. But
what was the old par 5 at Brockville Highland? The big one. You hit up. Oh, it's on the back 9.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I know which one you're talking about. Yeah.
Always like that par 5 too. And it was actually when we used to do the Flagstick Readers' Choice Awards, that par 5 was actually one of the ones that was in the top 3, or top 5 par 5s, as selected by our readers. I think if I went back, it was in the top 5 a lot of years.
Interesting. So yeah, that again, because it's something that's subjective and fun, I think it would be interesting to revisit that and find a format that we could do it in, and maybe people pay attention, and we might see some reader participation stuff on that soon. I do have something that's up on our Instagram right now, just saying what's your favorite hole in general, with no other parameters and stuff like that, just for some feedback. I did that during the break, but we'll formalize that a little bit in the future, and we'll do something on it.
Yeah, I think so. A little contest or something.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of contests,
let's get the let's do this. Let's get
this
out of the way,
Jeff.
Brick, I'm good. We put it out there for everybody to sign up for the Flagstick Digest newsletter, which is good for you to do anyway.
Yes.
And in return for you putting in such a strong effort for giving us your email address and your name, and us giving you this great newsletter, we also put your name in a list, a draw to win a autograph Xander Schauffele cap.
Yep, an Adidas one.
An Adidas cap. And we pulled a winner. And the winner is now we can only give you email address here, but
don't give the full email address. Obviously, we'll just do the front part of it.
C. Daniel Ottawa. Now we can only assume that it's C. Daniel, Chris, Candace.
We don't know.
Cooper. Who knows? We don't know. So
therefore, we'll email them.
I will email you, or Scott will email you. One of us will email you to get your address and full name and details so that we can ship off your signed Xander Schauffele Adidas cap.
Yeah, and there's some bonus TaylorMade golf balls in there as well.
There you go. So more than you expected. Thank you to everybody who did sign up, and we do encourage you to continue signing up.
Yeah,
we'll do other contests, but for sure, it's to your benefit. What we send out with the newsletter 3 times a week is some pretty good information, and it brings you directly to flagstick.com, which provides you with even more cool information every day. There you go. Congratulations, C. Daniel Ottawa.
There you go.
All right. Now, let's get to the meat and potatoes of the back 9. Scott had a chance to sit down with Blair Harris from the Kingston Quinte Intersectional matches, and talk a little shop, see what was going on, how the Intersectionals went this year, and to talk about how it got started and the growth of it over the years. So we want to play that interview. Scott, do you want to set up the interview at all, or have I already set it up well enough?
I think you just did. I mean, Blair
Okay.
was heavily involved when the Great Waterway Classic was around from a
Mm-hmm.
tourism side of it. He was working for the ministry at that point, but himself and a number of volunteers have really stepped up to really help promote these matches down in the Quinte Kingston region. And it's very self-explanatory, but he certainly gives us a little bit of the history, which actually I was involved in a little bit, and to see what the evolution is like, and how it's really how it's grown. And obviously it's not as large yet as what we see in the OVGA, or maybe they see in the Montreal district as well, but it's certainly drawing in a lot of players. It's getting a lot of attention, and I know a lot of the people that take part in it will be interested to hear what Blair's got to say. And yeah, thank you to Blair for taking the time.
Okay, so without further ado, here's Scott McLeod and his interview with Blair Harris.
All right, we've got a special guest today. Basically, Blair Harris, who I've known for quite some time. Actually, before we got on the show here, he was recounting the fact that we've known each other for probably 30 years now. We don't need to, recount all of that, but Blair is here to talk to us today about the Quinte Kingston intersectional matches, which is something I know intimately because I've lived in the Kingston area, was part of the Golf Ontario committee for a while, but obviously you're immersed in this. Welcome. Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you after a long time.
Yeah, it has been a little bit. We occasionally run into each other every now and then, but certainly not as much in the last little while. I know the season just wrapped up. You guys have been great in getting details and stuff to us this year. If people first off want to know about all the results for these matches, which obviously as we will get into as far as the territory they cover, go up onto flagstick.com. We've got all the results, and I have to thank you first off, Blair. You guys have been diligent about getting the results. I've been a little bit slower sometimes because maybe I've been traveling or whatever to get posted. But photos, scores, names, details, it's been great. And I know the people involved and their friends and families certainly appreciate it as well. So kudos to you for that before we get to talking about anything else.
Well, and thank you. Obviously, from our perspective, Flagstick is the voice of golf in this region. So where else would we go?
Well, we appreciate that. So first off, let's talk a little bit about the history. Now, it's been about 13, 14 years since I was involved with sort of back when they had the districts for Golf Ontario. We don't sort of have that now, that structure. But why don't you tell us a little bit about what the intersectional matches are, how long they've been taking place, and so forth?
Yeah, well, it's a fascinating history, but it comes down to the whole concept of the intersectional matches, where you have four clubs in a foursome. They're playing match play against each of the other players, so it can get a little complicated for the the recreational
Sure.
golfer. But basically, this is our 16th year. And it all started, and as you know, the gentleman, Gilles Hurtubise from Quebec, sort of brought the concept over and really just did a yeoman's job at doing everything for the organization. And it was all him and with a few volunteers. But this guy was unbelievable. And again, with I think a committee involving you back then. So he started it, and I think there was probably about 10 clubs. I think it was 2008, and I think that's when I first started. And a lot of fun, but it's grown, and as golf has grown. And so what's really happened since then? Gilles retired in 2018, I believe it was. So he was in it for a good while, and that whole transition, you got to find people, volunteers interested in it, and a lot of us, let's face it, want to just play golf, but you do need the organizers, as in any golf tournament, pro or otherwise. You need a ton of volunteers, and a couple of guys took the reins. They're both playing at the landings where I play in Kingston, and Mike Purcell and Richard Bro took it on and changed things up a little bit. Got into the website, just clean things up again with 2 people, and now 3. I joined a couple of years ago, helping with the marketing and whatnot. So we put a little different spin to things. The concept, I guess, is it's competition, obviously, but it's friendly competition. That's what we want to get across, and that may be more so than other intersectional districts around the province. So that's what we try and breed: participation, fun, etc. And many of the golfers, and I'm a B golfer, so I'm a pure recreational golfer. But the concept sort of got my juices going and gave me an opportunity to just see how I would stack up in competition. And it was really neat, and especially match play alone. Just I'd never known what match play was. So many players, and I keep seeing it every year, are learning about match play, and it's a whole different opportunity for them to enjoy golf. And in particular, though, what I think, what Joel and us as we follow him, this whole friendly competition, it really gave golfers a couple of things. First of all, from the club standpoint, and we have, I got to remember this now, we've got over 20, we've got about 20 clubs participating, and it becomes having the QChem involved, or the matches, etc. It really provides the clubs with a value add, because it is members, it is a member-based type of thing for participation, and we use handicaps and so forth. And it enables another feature that the club can advertise and promote. And again, as a B golfer, I've seen even last year, the guys I play with who never, just either, probably a couple of them joined a couple of years ago. Now that's their target. How do we make this team and whatnot? And it's really neat. It usually takes a year because there's nerves and whatnot, and every club has their different means of selecting their players. Some have play downs. So in our case of the landings, we have about I think it's six outings that your best 3 scores, and you can qualify for the teams. And I'll mention the categories for the divisions. So you have those. So that's where you get into that whole competitive side of things, and it's a badge of honor amongst your fellow mates and so forth.
So you made the team, and you've got the shirt, right?
Yeah, exactly, and maybe a win here or there, but it's competition, so it's win, lose, and draw. So, but more importantly, you meet a lot of golfers. I'm always surprised. In some cases, shocked. I thought, I may have had a bad swing, but you see some golfers with some real wacky swings, and you're, as a pro, you've seen it all. And I don't know where you begin with some of these folks, but it works for everybody adjusts. And but if you're in the B category, which is 10.5 factor and up, you're bound to see that. But at the A level, you've got some solid golfers, men and women. And so from the club standpoint, they really participate. The owners, there's a bit of a value add there, but they also reserve times. They're giving up times, and that is huge. And you have to really congratulate them and salute them for that. And also volunteers within the club, the staff. It's just exceptional. We've had some people. Well, and all these guys, Dale Peterson. I'm just trying to think. I've just forgot it. Jason Boyce. I was thinking of his curling exploits lately. But anyway, you've got a whole ton of those folks with the courses and staff. Plus, you've got a lot of volunteers, and I'm just going to throw a few names out.
Sure,
Ted Carson at Amerfield, Alan Laminetz, and Curtis Champagne at Rondell Glen. At the landings, of course, and maybe I should touch on, I've already touched on Mike Purcell, Richard Bro, myself. All these folks really help out. Wayne Pascoe from Briar Fox, among others that officiate. And I'm sort of jumping around here, but
that's all good.
With the volunteers, when we were officiating and whatnot, we also do the big announcements at the tee, and get all. And I always look at the B just because the A folks are probably a little more used to competition and whatnot. So it's really trying to give them a flavor as to what it's like, in tournaments. We all watch tournaments on TV and that. I sort of liken it to if you remember the Great Waterway Classic that was in the area for 4 years. I remember talking to I think he was like a vice president of the PGA Tour, because they came in the second year and took over the senior tour, Canadian senior tour, and he was telling me about the whole situation, what they try and do with their feeder tours, hence the PGA Tour Canada, and I should be naming their
PGA Tour
sponsor.
Americas now, but it's
Latino,
it's Fortinet now. It used to be Mackenzie, back then,
So he was just saying that was what their goal was to give a flavor, get a feel for these the development is a development tour, but to get them to have that feel of what it's like when they hopefully make the PGA Tour. Obviously, maybe I'm exaggerating a little, but that's sort of the flavor and the friendliness and so forth. So let me just jump back. So I mentioned the clubs where there's an advantage there. The players, what we hope to get, to provide them is opportunities to play at courses they may rarely play at or never play at. That type of thing. So it's that same concept. The one thing that's evolved over the years, as we started out, and was it was kind of rigid in terms of if you got eliminated by your 3 other opponents in the foursome, you had to
gone.
do
the walk of shame.
and my big walk was, I think, from the 12th hole.
Oh,
I was eliminated. I didn't even know how to get back to the clubhouse. I didn't want to. But so what we've done, Mike and Richard and I, we've incorporated opportunities for people to continue playing, to get out of the way and so forth. We've also incorporated and a lot of pros aren't maybe too excited about it, but the E5 local rule. So just to keep the pace of play going, but especially in the Bs and that, a lot of As, there's a bit of ego. They're going to hit the damn ball next, even though they hit it 300 yards and they could basically achieve the same result. I've seen that a lot when I've been officiating. But it speeds it up, and it then enables people to have more fun. You don't hit 2 out of bounds, and it's a bad experience and stuff. So it's things like that we've tried to incorporate, and again, that whole flavor of fun and experience and so forth.
Yeah, it's competition, but I mean, there's still a social element, and I think the one thing that people get to see is that there's a lot more golfers like them out there at other places. And we have the privilege of going around and being and seeing all these golf courses and seeing all these golfers, but we always forget that a lot of people are used to their own little bubble, and they play with their their friends, their family, or whatever. But when they start to see that they have people that love the game just as much as them, no matter their level, and you've built a place for them. And we've seen that obviously in OVGA and Montreal district, as well, as far as intersectional matches having gone for a longer period of time. But as you said, it becomes that goal for the year that it might be somebody who's a 20 handicap who's never even thought of to play in a tournament. And this, because it's match play, they're playing, they're fairly well matched against, their peers, and they get to have a little bit of good time. And as you said, get to see other golf courses and other golfers around the region.
And in match play, it's sort of, it makes it easier to achieve some of those issues, because again, the proverbial, you can have a real bad hole, but it's only one hole and one point, and that makes a lot of sense as well. So,
how many divisions do you have now? I mean, I know obviously, as you said, it's grown in the 16 years. I remember early days, it was pretty small. And I remember Gilles trying to convince everybody that this was a good idea, and that, Ottawa had done it for decades and Montreal had done it for decades, and, that would be great. Eventually, though, now we have people, they're talking about the intersectionals now, whereas I never heard that, obviously, in the first number of years. How big has it grown now, as far as, people included, divisions that are playing, so forth?
Yeah, well, with QChem, we have 6 divisions. It's actually gone down just in the last year or two, and I think that's a demographic thing with women, in terms of participation and whatnot. But in women, so it is. For women, we have one women's category. We used to have an A and B, and hopefully that'll pick up. It's just more, I think, a development thing. I've talked to other courses, and the younger females are aren't getting into it as much, I think, and I haven't seen the actual written. It's just hearsay. But anyway, we've got a women's category. We have senior women's category, which is 50 and up, and for men we've expanded over the last couple of years. So we've got men's A, which is an open type of situation with handicap. Men's B, which is a factor of 10.5 and up. And then we have seniors, which is 55 and up, and super seniors, which is 65 and up. And all very popular. Again, we have 20 over among those categories. We have 22 matches that take place. Some have three, some have four. And the concept for listeners, I guess, it is for in a foursome, the winning team, the winning club, the winning club in a section would then move up to the next section until you get to section one for the grand championship, and the second place team would host for next year, and the last place team would then move down a section. So each year there's that constant movement, and with the goal to reach the top rung. And just in the men, I was just looking at the results for 2023, and we have four different clubs winning each of the four titles, which is kind of nice.
Which is great,
that diversity.
There's some variety there. What did you have for totals for the year? Do you know how many total participants actually in those matches?
I did.
Sorry. I know it's a big number, but I mean, the point I want to get to is that not only has it grown, people should realize too that it's not just the people playing in the intersectionals, it's also people trying to qualify as well that are actually really included in that number. And I know that from, again, a reference back to the Ottawa Valley Golf Association, there might be, a couple thousand people that are playing in those matches for 60 some odd clubs, but it's also all the thousands of other people that are involved as far as qualifying. And I think that's the magic of it, is that it can include a lot of people more than just the ones that kind of make the team, because potentially there's a lot of people at each club that could make those teams.
Well, and I can break that down. So we did have 80 teams from 19 clubs.
Yeah.
And so if you just said, so that's roughly 800 people, give or take, participating.
Fabulous. Yeah.
And then you've made a really good point in terms of trying to make the teams and so forth. At the landings, we'd have probably 40 to 50, I'd say.
Yeah.
Something like that across the divisions or the divisions. So that really adds up. So we've always talked about 1,000, thousands of people over the years, which and that's just participating at the QKIM events. So it's beyond that, of course. So it's quite substantial.
Yeah, and I mean, I've seen, a lot of talented golfers participate in the QKIM ones, and we should, again, I'll define for people, this is the Quinte and Kingston region of Ontario. There's been a lot of talented golfers that have come through and played in these intersectionals, and we don't always want to emphasize just the A players, but, we'll let people know there is some fabulous golfers that have come through on the A side. And we've also seen other players that come up from the younger side of it. I know this year a great example was the Pattison girls, who played really well from Colonnade, and I happened to be at Garrison the day that they were playing and taking part. But it's neat because they're going to be part of those matches for a long time going forward, which again is another part of the magic. You can be part of this for quite some time, and I'm sure there's people that have been part of the intersectionals now from the 16 years.
Well, when I was officiating, I think it was at Rivendell, but actually there was another one I was officiating this year. And it's amazing. I always ask when I'm going with each foursome, I always have a quick chat with them. And I always ask them, have you done this before? And I was really amazed this year. I would say 90% of the participants, and I was doing a senior one. Yeah, I was doing a senior, and then I think a B. But anyway, it was remarkable that, just as you said, they start and I'm a good example. 2008. I'd like to say I'm going back to junior, but no.
Yeah.
So I've hit the senior mark and so forth. So there's more opportunities to play, and it might be tougher for me now to make the B team sort of thing.
Right.
But then there's a senior team that might give me a few extra opportunities in that. So again, it's that whole participation opportunities and so forth. You mentioned the young golfers. Wilson Dornekamp
Yeah,
is another one.
fabulous. Yeah,
Like unbelievable.
yeah.
He's so small and young, and holy cow!
And
So,
taking on the adults, which is fun. I
oh,
play with Eric Stevens, and he mentioned maybe taking a little bit of a beating from Wilson in the tournament. So
yeah, that's the thing with golf. I just want to, again, kudos to Richard Bro. Again, a volunteer, uh, real nice guy, and obviously you can edit that out. But a fun guy, but he's really brought a lot of talent uh, to the organization. So he handles, the booking. I think in the old days, most of the tournaments were happening over maybe 2 weekends, that type of thing. But
yeah,
it's complicated out there with the clubs and weather and so forth. So he's maneuvering all sorts of things, games, moving things. I can't keep up with it, but it's really really impressive. More so though, and I always comment on the website that he's brought forward. He was a commercial designer, and it's so user, having been in
very
tourism and that
much.
over the
Yeah,
years. The website is just so easy to use. I marvel at it every time I get on it, and it's one-stop shopping. So it helps reduce some of some of the workload. Maybe not for him, but anyway, he's really brought a real positive edge to this. And scorecards, things of that nature. Mike, Richard, myself, you know, that's one of the more complicated things. It just doesn't matter. You always think you've got the right thing, and then it's when you're scorekeeping and
yeah. I think people, until they get they get used to playing tournaments, but until they get on the other side of administrating them and realizing all the little nuances and all the things that go into it, that's when they have a true appreciation for all the work and the effort and the structure that it takes to do this, which again, kudos to you guys for being willing to do this. It's not like it's a paid job here. But yeah, was there any particular other highlights of the year for you? I mean, maybe things that you saw or mentioned, and they don't necessarily have to be particularly about play, but they could be, something somebody mentioned or so forth.
and again, I'll just maybe provide some kudos on that note to some of the clubs. Yeah, the clubs also put on a little. I'm going to say desserts, just light meals, that type
Yeah,
of thing. And again, that's all something that they offer on top of everything else. So it's really really nice of them as well. The other thing is more, I guess I'm always marveled by the camaraderie,
mm,
because people are meeting for the first time, and maybe not so much anymore because, as I said, the players are playing together more. They've been around the intersectionals for a while, but there's much more of a camaraderie afterwards, where some teams will stay, and again, it's like any golf match where you play a foursome. You get to talk, you get to
yeah,
chat, and have fun and so forth. So it's really kind of neat in that respect, and again, that whole flavor of friendliness and so forth. We did have a one hole in one. That's always a
nice.
fun thing. We always make a big thing about it, and of course carried it in Flagstick as well. Um, uh, Richard Papp from Rondell Glen. So that's a real highlight, and
Yeah,
I can't remember what the
it's a
number
good
we've
way to
had
win a
over the
hole.
years.
It's a good way to win a
Yeah,
hole. Yeah,
I don't
generally.
know.
Yeah,
Did he win?
I don't know.
But pretty spectacular,
Yeah,
and but it's yeah, I'm just always impressed. Everybody's so nice. The staff, and I did one, officiated one at Cataraqui, and just the staff everywhere, right? From the cart rental area and all that, and just right through to the restaurant and so forth. It really impresses me with the quality of service and whatnot at the courses that are offered, and just the quality of the course itself. And this is what makes it so unique and
mhm,
so forth. Something I think we've got to talk about in the off season. We've always played growth scores,
mhm.
and so the handicaps sort of determine who
Correct.
you're playing against, sort of
Yeah,
thing. But there's some teams with more depth and so forth. The men not so much. The cream rises to the top, and but there's a diversity and whatnot. But we've got to look, I think, at the women's. Cataraqui is doing really well. But sometimes it can be overwhelming, even though it's a friendly competition and whatnot. You also want to have it, somewhat competitive. And so that's something we're going to talk about. Maybe we have a hybrid net handicap type of
Yeah,
situation.
we've seen some junior competitions in various districts over the years. Look at Stableford points. We've seen some variations that way. So yeah, because again, you want the person to have a good experience, and a positive experience, and want to come back. If they go there and they get absolutely drummed, for some people it wouldn't matter, but for some people, maybe it's not so fun.
Right on, and hey, I've been there. I mean, that's the thing with Mike and Richard and I. We played in a lot of these things, so you can sort of see the pitfalls at times. But at the same time, we've changed it to that more friendly nature of approach, and I think it's really benefited for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you've made it into something that is obviously, people are trying to attain. It's something they're after every time, and as a result of it, the reputation of it has grown. And as you said, the service, I think, at golf courses is not only reflective of there, but it's also reflective of them understanding that these are important events for people, and it's become something that's big. It's a big highlight of the year. How do you grow that though? I mean, as you mentioned, maybe there's some adjustments for certain things, but are there any particular plans for the future, trying to get more clubs involved, divisions, anything particular that way?
Yeah, well, on that note, actually this year we Invery joined the QCAM, and they actually had a really good start to their match. They just put one team in. I think it was senior. I stand to be corrected. But that's the thing. As we branch out, we're always, we've had some inquiries, so it's a matter of trying to cultivate that a little more and whatnot. And I think just again in the last few years, we're hearing more. Richard and Mike especially are really trying to provide that service. Getting back to courses, helping them out. And one of the reasons too, a couple of reasons for. I'm doing the narrative on the results and whatnot is to try two-pronged approach to that. We're trying to get that out there to make the players feel like, hey, wow, this was a real, big competition, and there's photos and that type of thing. But also for the course, to try and give them some
Showcase them a little
presence of
bit.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, through you guys, Invery, that's where we led with the introduction for this season. Because hey, it's big news, and to introduce for Invery in this case to have another value add to their members. To hey, this is something you guys can get involved with, and so forth. So it's yeah, it's pretty neat. I mean, there's so many cogs
A
to the
lot of
wheel sort of thing.
nuances. Yeah.
Yeah.
Two things just to close up on. One, are you in need of volunteers? Because obviously it sounds like as you grow, you're going to need a little bit more help that way. And then just to close out, why don't you point out the exact URL for the website so people can go see the amazing work of Richard?
Yeah, yeah, when you say amazing, it's simplistic. I mean, so and you think of bells and whistles, but you don't need that,
No.
as you know, it's too complicated. Yeah, for volunteers, we've got some, but we always could use some more. And typically, it's involved with officiating. So that's getting announcing players and getting it out. It's actually fun. I mean, I've got to say, both Mike, Richard, and I. And seeing the repeat volunteers, it's kind of fun because we too are meeting people, and
For sure.
sometimes you can joke around and all that stuff. So so that's fantastic, and so it's about call it a 7 or 8 hour day, give or take. But you're out in the sunshine, you're on a cart,
You're around
and
golf.
yeah, it's what more can you say?
Yeah.
And as long as I'm not playing, you have to watch me. But anyway, contact QKIM, and the address, I'll just say the address
Yeah,
is on
please.
the website, and it's qkim.ca is the website, QKIM. And that's the other thing, we've tried to go with that from a marketing standpoint with that catchy QKIM. So it's funny,
Real
I had
simple.
to, well, and it's funny, getting ready for this meeting, I had to say, yeah, what does that stand for? But that's this is the day and age. Everything's short, sweet, and all that stuff. So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Blair. I really appreciate it. I mean, it's nice to, obviously share this, get people more informed about what's happening, and hopefully more of them can get involved.
And I'll finish off by saying, for anyone interested in playing, being a participant, wherever you play golf, or get a membership. Get a membership at a local club, and then ask your pro shop, how do we get involved with the QKIM matches, and I think you'll be a better person for it if you do that. And thank you, as the voice of golf in Eastern Ontario and beyond, maybe the world. I don't want to sell you short though, Scott.
Well, thanks, Blair. We look forward to seeing more results and seeing you at some events next year.
Good stuff.
Cool. That's a lot of good information. Good interview, Blair. Scott McLeod.
Blair loves to chat, so he's a good guy. Loves his golf, and it shows you the importance as well of volunteers in this game. People that are willing to get back, and if we don't have those volunteers, then a lot of the things that happen in golf just don't happen.
I'll tell you right now, I've been doing this for, oh my gosh, 27 years now.
This is the 28th year.
28th year. It's going. Oh my God. Where's the time fly? And I'll tell you, I've covered tournaments for years. I've attended many different tournaments. Nothing compares.
The Intersectionals.
Nothing.
Yeah.
To the Intersectionals. The Intersectionals are, it's like obviously like a Ryder Cup or a President's Cup, but at this level, it's like the Payne Challenge Cup. I mean, of all the PGA of Ottawa events that I go to, these individual ones, they're great.
Yeah.
Nothing compares to the Payne Challenge Cup.
And obviously Blair, made mention of that as well, of, the importance that it has become for a lot of these players, and the point of pride it is to make it onto these teams, to represent your club. So yeah, you're right. It's more than just the individual ego. It has a lot more to do with it.
And I don't know. I don't know. I mean, obviously there's been some conversation things going on about the OVG Intersectionals here and some of the clubs, and the issue that they're dealing with respect to the cost of using the golf courses and stuff. They need to resolve that, because this is too important. It's too important. I know it's not too important as a revenue source for golf courses, and I know but there's got to be a compromise. There's got to be a way to solve it so that it can continue to work, the way it's been working.
It's important to the culture of golf.
Yes.
Right. So, I mean, there's so many elements that, sometimes people think, moving on from stuff is always a good thing, and progress is a good thing. There's nothing wrong with progress, but there's certainly some things that help tie golf together, and especially within a community and within a region. And this is one of those iconic things that make a difference at not just one club, and not just with a select few people. It touches every single golf club in the region that, gets involved here, which is obviously the greater amount of them. And, it's never always about just the people that make the team. It's about, as we talked about in there, it's all the people that try to qualify for the team. And that encompasses a large percentage of the golfers within the region, or at least the club golfers. We're not talking about, your public players, which are obviously very, very important as well. But this is within the clubs. This is very, very important, as that point of pride, and something that everybody looks towards every year.
Now, I'm willing to sit down in a room with everybody if they want to sit down in a room. I'm willing to sit down in a room and figure it all out. So there. I volunteered myself. Well, Scotty Mac.
Yes, sir. Done for another week.
Another great show. Another great Flagstick podcast. And our thanks to Blair Harris, obviously, for doing that interview with you and giving us a little bit more information and a little bit more insight as to what's going on with the Kingston Quinte intersectional matches. Yes. Congratulations again to C. Daniel Ottawa for your Xander Schauffele autographed cap. I'm sure you'll enjoy that, and your golf balls. But we got to put a wrap on this week. Thanks, of course, to our sponsors, Metcalfe Golf Club, Falcon Ridge Golf Course, and our presenting sponsor, the Canadian Pro Shop online, with amazing prices on all the latest brand name golf equipment, all in one convenient location online. It's never been easier to upgrade your game, whether it's drivers, irons, putters, whatever your golf game needs. The Canadian Pro Shop online has the best gear to help you play your best golf. Shop online at CanadianProShopOnline.com. Well, we hope that you've been enjoying and hearing and watching us and this show. Be sure to follow us across all social media networks, Instagram, X, Facebook, Threads, TikTok. Subscribe on Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Apple Podcasts. Do not forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Like us, click the notification bell. Make sure you never miss a single episode. Get over to flagstick.com for more amazing golf content delivered every day, and sign up for the Flagstick Digest newsletter so that that content comes directly to your inbox.
You got it.
As always, we appreciate you tuning in. But until next week, I am Jeff Botter.
And I'm Scott McLeod.
Remember, always go for the stick.